Tonight on KGW News, an alleged drunk driver hits up to a dozen people.
There are significant public safety concerns, and he's incredibly lucky that no one ended up dying from this.
Plus, the bizarre Sherwood crime spree authorities say that started with a driver crashing through a gate.
They actually also shot at a kid in their detail in a pickup. So that kid ran for cover and hid in a storage unit.
And later, call it a close call for two teenagers trapped on a cliff.
And it's very easy to find yourself in a situation where you got up, but you can't get down.
The video that shows how the Coast Guard brought them to safety. Good evening, everyone. We want to get right to breaking news. And a wildfire in the Gorge that's prompted some level 2 get set evacuations in Wyeth. That's about 8 miles east of Cascade Locks. The Wyeth fire, as it's named, has burned at least 25 acres since this afternoon, and this evening impacted transmission lines, cutting off power to Cascade Locks. We understand that electricity has now been restored. Fire crews are tackling the blaze on the ground and from the air. Evacuations are focused on the Wyeth campground and around Herman Creek Road. Again, just level 1s and 2s for now. I-84 remains open through the stretch, but officials say smoke could impact visibility and are urging caution on the roads. We'll keep you updated as we learn more. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Sfino. Matt, this is still relatively small. Thank goodness for that. What is the wind like in the Gorge right now?
Well, we've got a window of opportunity to hopefully keep it small and contain it. Right now, out in the Dalles right now, our camera in the Gorge. Winds are gusting about 22 miles an hour in the Gorge. That's fairly strong, but it's windier in the Dalles than it is farther west in the Gorge. In fact, we look at some of the other wind observations here, and you can see in Hood River the winds are calm, and Wyeth is just to the west of Hood River. So conditions are better there than they are over in the eastern Gorge. The Dalles is one of the windier spots. And the forecast overnight is good. Winds will be down around 5, 7, 8 miles an hour. That's good. Farther east, they start to pick up a bit. And then they're going to pick up everywhere in the afternoon tomorrow. Already by, say, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, winds of about 22 miles an hour in Carson over to Wyeth, stronger in Hood River. So they pick up as we go to tomorrow night, and they get strong as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. But again, as early as late tomorrow afternoon, it's going to start to get breezy in the Gorge and then just downright windy on Wednesday and Thursday. So again, they've got a window of opportunity, but it doesn't last all that long. There have been some thunderstorms around the state tonight. We'll touch on those and your forecast the rest of the week later, David.
Right, appreciate it, Matt. Thanks so much. We continue at 11 now with a drunk driving suspect in court after witnesses say he hit as many as a dozen people after running a stop sign in Oldtown. Catherine Cook's in the newsroom with the latest. Catherine?
David, police say the suspect drove into a crowd of more than 50 people. There were broken bones, but everyone is expected to recover. Given the suspect's history, some of those victims fear this could happen again. Moments of chaos in Portland's Oldtown. Just after 2 a.m. Friday, police say the driver of this gray Mustang blew through a stop sign near Northwest 4th and Cooch, hitting and injuring multiple people. On Monday, the driver, 32-year-old Tyler William Miller, was in court.
He then barreled through a crowd of innocent bystanders.
He's charged with DUII, reckless driving, assault in the 3rd degree, and 15 counts of recklessly endangering another person. Miller pleaded not guilty.
It was so fast. I watched my leg get hit, a lot of my friends.
2 victims called into court asking the judge to keep Miller behind bars.
We have to relive that moment every day, and I do not think that any of us will feel safe knowing he's back on the streets and can get behind another vehicle drunk how he was.
Court documents show Miller's blood alcohol level was 0.19, more than twice the legal limit. One officer writing, "I told Tyler that he could have killed many people. I asked him if he realized what he just did, and he told me no."
Initially, they were up at the window saying you need to stop your car, put it in park. And he was fumbling with the controls of the vehicle and actually backed up quite a ways. And so they're still trying to get him to stop. They're worried that someone else might get hurt.
Initially, police said 4 victims went to the hospital, some with broken bones. In court, prosecutors noted 5 other victims had since come forward.
Very serious crime and very serious consequences coming at him.
Attorney Jason Kafori is representing one of the victims.
We'd like witnesses and we'd like people to come forward that can both give the police information and also the victim's information.
In court, prosecutors noted this was not Miller's first time facing drunk driving charges. Last year, he completed a diversion program in Washington County, which led the court to dismiss a DUII charge.
What has clearly been shown is that what he was taught during the diversion program really did not stick.
And taking all of that into consideration, the judge set bail at $50,000. Miller is due back in court next week. David.
Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate your reporting on that tonight. New tonight, the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office is currently investigating what it is calling a stabbing incident in Sheridan that led to a deputy shooting someone. Details are very limited. It's not clear if anyone has been seriously injured or potentially killed. We'll bring you updates on that as they come in. Let's hop over to Washington County, where a man who allegedly drove his truck through a 3-inch thick steel fence in Sherwood, then started randomly shooting at people, authorities say, has made his first court appearance. Travis Bloomhagen, who is charged with multiple counts of attempted murder, is accused of driving into that RV storage facility Sunday afternoon, then firing shots, including at people inside an RV. Here's the owner of the facility.
Actually, also shot at a kid in their detail in a pickup. So that kid ran for cover and hid in a storage unit.
That is wild.
Unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Well, no kidding. Multiple police agencies responded. Authorities say during his attempt to get away, the suspect rammed a Sherwood patrol car, then later fired his gun at officers. A Tualatin police officer fired back. Both the suspect and the officer in the vehicle that was rammed were taken to the hospital and then released. Bloomhagen did not make a plea today and will remain in custody until at least next week. Tonight, Texas Hill Country is bracing for more rain after devastating flash floods killed at least 100 people, including some 28 children. Those numbers expected to rise. And this evening, the search for survivors is essentially running out of time. Ryan Chandler has the latest along the Guadalupe River.
Kerrville resident Michelle Pittman had no idea that death and destruction was coming downriver.
You know, this was something that happened that no one was prepared for.
As the urgent search continues, questions and calls for accountability grow about how many in this community were caught by such surprise.
Rest assured, no one knew this kind of flood was coming.
Many questioning why neighborhoods and camps along the Guadalupe River were not told to evacuate earlier.
Very tough to make those calls because what we also don't want to do is cry wolf.
At Camp Mystic, the Texas Lieutenant Governor says campers were awakened only by thunder and lightning. Phones not allowed by camp rules. He's now pushing for state lawmakers to fund more outdoor warning sirens.
We shouldn't have lightning and thunder waking up kids. We should have those sirens. We need to go back step by step, and look at what happened and why it happened.
The National Weather Service says a flood watch at 1:18 p.m. Thursday was elevated on Friday at 1:14 a.m. to urgent flash flood warnings for Kerr County, sending emergency alerts to cell phones and weather radios. Then at 4:03 a.m., an upgrade to a flash flood emergency. But for so many, those warnings went unheard.
Obviously, most people at 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. are asleep. And so I think we will have a reasonable conversation about are there any ways to have earlier detection?
Senator Ted Cruz defending the National Weather Service amid concerns of staffing shortages, saying Congress will act.
We did see a lot of people heroically taking kids out of harm's way, but it should have happened earlier. How we make that happen, I think, is a very reasonable discussion.
As so many still grieve, many questioning how to prevent the next disaster. Ryan Chandler, NBC News, Kerrville, Texas.
So many questions as that search continues. In Tigard, 2 teenagers are at home recovering after they were struck in southeast Portland by a hit-and-run driver. Bela Zwerling and Ruby Kostrava, both 18, were hit in a crosswalk, authorities say, by a driver who ran a red light. This was just after midnight a week ago Sunday at Southeast 122nd and Market. It's an area designated as a high crash corridor. Bela suffered cuts and bruises, and the impact broke Ruby's right leg.
I think he hit me with the left corner of his car because I have a bruise that's like the exact shape of a headlight, like distinctly the shape of a headlight.
I do think there's an issue of like, that was seriously concerning if you hit 2 young pedestrians, another car, and your instinct is, I got to get out of here.
Authorities, as it appears, do not have a lot to go on. They describe the vehicle as a black or dark colored SUV. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, the search for the Washington man accused of killing his 3 young daughters has now spread to Idaho. That's after investigators say Travis Decker was potentially spotted in a remote forested area on Sunday. Authorities say Decker killed his daughters outside of Wenatchee, Washington just over a month ago. Part of the search now pivoting to Idaho's Sawtooth National Forest, sparking questions from those familiar with that terrain.
How did he get from central Washington to central Idaho? There's no direct route as such, There's roads, obviously, but it's not like driving from Chelan County to Spokane, where you can just zip across I-90 or Highway 2. You can't get to this area where he supposedly is.
U.S. Marshals say new tips are coming in and they are evaluating. 2 people have been arrested after they were accused of defrauding people out of thousands of dollars. Silverton Police says Earl Soliman, also known as Dimitri, and Cassidy Pearlman face charges of aggravated theft in the first degree. Authorities say the 2, operating under the names Home Renovation Experts and Roofing Experts, took a deposit for roof replacement services in March 2024, but never performed the work. Police say the suspects moved out of state, but they managed to track them down. If you believe you're a victim of a similar scam, contact the Silverton Police Department. And despite pushback from neighbors, Oaks Park has received city approval for its new 135-foot drop tower ride. The decision came down last week. It allows the park to exceed current height limits and use non-downward facing lighting, so it's up and on the sides, right, for the attraction. So why the focus on lighting? Well, nearby residents and environmental groups had voiced concerns about the tower's visual and environmental impacts, including light pollution, but Oaks Park says it's worked with experts to minimize those. It includes one specific change during the month of October, where after sunset, the lights will be limited to red and orange hues. The ride is expected to open in 2026.